Welcome to the Soul Patch Podcast, the podcast where three American expats explore different topics related to living and working in South Korea. With a combined 50 years of living experience in Asia, there are plenty of stories to tell. So, pop in your AirPods and make yourself comfortable. It's time for the Soul Patch Podcast.
Yeah, so what I wanted to get into a little bit was sharing with listeners, both people who have not been to Korea, people who have been here, people living here that might not know about cycling in Korea. Mm-hmm. And I mean like all types of cycling. So everything from being hardcore and having like, pro gear for touring or, working on like your own health, that kind of stuff too. Like people are working on their cardio and getting, knocking out new PRs and going for distance and speed and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. From that extreme all the way to just taking a joyride on a city bike on the bike paths here. Right. I didn't know about a lot of this stuff when I moved here, and the circle of people that I was with, both like friends and professional, none of them in the first few years that I lived here really biked. They didn't even do like joyriding. Like it wasn't a thing. And I had a bicycle in Chicago. I came here and I didn't have a bike, and I just kind of didn't know that it was such an accessible and really cool thing in the country. So I want to ask you first.
Yeah.
Did you know about the bike trails when you came here?
Trying to think if I didn't understand the extent to which they expand across the country. Like I knew that there were, I used to see, I still do. You can always see the hardcore people because they got they got the expensive helmet. It's like they walked into a bike shop and they said, "I'll just take one of everthing," they
got bombed.
Yeah, they just it's usually like probably 30 something year old man, 40 50s is what I see there. Sometimes there's bellies sticking out of those spandex shirts or whatever, or the tops or whatever, but they invested some money into it, and I think you draw the line like if you're wearing jeans and you're biking, that's not very cool, right? Like it's kind of, but then I don't know about Chicago. Like in Chicago, is it like a means to get around because people just don't want to deal with the
my bicycle? So I had a car forever until I went to graduate school in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And when I arrived, before I left Washington State, I sold my car there and then came to Chicago with no vehicle. And I anticipated using the subway and buses and taxis. And it worked okay. But at the time, this was like 2005 and 6. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it is now. Actually, I haven't been back to Chicago in a long time. But public transit sucks. So my friends told me, we'll just get a bike. And, I was 20-year-old hipster. All my friends were hipsters, and they're like, yeah, you got to get like a cool cruiser. So my bike in Chicago was from a used bike store. It was like a 1960s, had green painted fenders. I think it had one gear. Pretty sure it was just one gear.
And so you were using it like you'd had like those like newsboy hats and like a corduroy jacket.
I didn't take it that far.
You didn't go that far, but you're kind of dressed like you're kind of like a hipster. You're like, I'm doing this. It's good for my health. It's good for the environment. It's what you might see like in Amsterdam or something like that, right? Like
it was more like I'm a broke graduate student and I can't afford a train that doesn't come on time. I need to get to work. I need to get to class. I need to get to my practicum and internships and stuff. So the bike I had was, and also at the time, there wasn't really good bike routes in Chicago. So you're up on the sidewalk down with traffic back and forth. You're probably averaging like 10 kilometers an hour. You're crawling.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, how far are you going? I mean, is everything within like a 10-kilometer radius for you? Like, or are you doing, in Chicago, or are you doing like long?
Sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was practical. It's practical until the snow came. And then when it was snowing, then you have to give up and you take the train and you take the bus. But yeah, so that was my experience with biking. So I use the bike about half of the time that I need to get around. And it was, yeah, it was just a convenience thing. So when I came to Korea, I didn't see it as it wasn't a fun thing. I didn't dislike biking or like it. I had no opinion on it. I never had good bike gear. The last bike I had before that, I was probably in grade school. I had like a
BMX.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
right.
love.
Did you have
I
pegs
say,
on there
I say
or
no.
no
What's that?
pegs? Did you have pegs
Oh
on
yeah,
there?
front
Oh
and
yeah.
back.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah, I love that damn thing. Yeah, so I didn't really have much of an opinion. I came here, didn't care about bikes. It wasn't a thing. And yeah, I actually have to give credit to one of our coworkers who opened my eyes to the whole thing. He was a longtime biker. I played in a band with him. I can remember he would get comments sometimes from the audience and people would see him. He was, he's a teacher. So he's like us, always wearing like trainer shoes, like just not, like we have the teacher look, don't we? We both have like shaved head trainer shoes and like, the day bag, like
yeah.
There's a teacher look here. He was like this, and he often wore shorts, and he had abnormally sculpted, amazing calf muscles because he bikes. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but have you seen it? Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
So we'd be on stage, and it's like, look at that guy's calf muscles. It's amazing. It's really funny. He's a modest guy too, and he's just like, yeah, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
But he was a hardcore biker, and he just talked me into it. He's like, you should just get a bike so we can do one trip. That was it. And I don't want to buy a damn bike. It's just one more thing to worry about, and I don't really want a bike. Finally convinced me to do it. I think I spent like $130, $120, and I got this.
Yeah, like really a cruiser type thing, like it
was
like
a hybrid
city bike.
Okay. No, it was like a hybrid 7-speed Chinese piece of crap.
Okay.
No disrespect to China, but the bike was garbage. But it got me hooked. We took one trip. It was an overnight trip. We went out to the trip taught me that about how to use the bike trails. I got to see how isolated the bike trails were. We went out to this little island off Incheon. So we biked out to Incheon and took and we threw our sleeping bags in the sand and slept on the sand on the beach. Yeah, the amount of freedom you can really get using the bike trails here if you want to explore, and just how accessible and safe it is, and easy. It was like a secret just unlocked to me. So for the next few years, I went really deep into it. I got a nicer bike. I went through like 3 bikes since then.
It became like it became your main hobby essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was the focus. And then through doing those trips here, it kind of taught me how to do bicycle touring. So that became also my, every winter we have the 2 months of time off that I spend traveling. I turned that into 2 months of cycling. So I go to another country and then I go on a bike trip.
That's interesting. Like the fact that you took it to a new level where you're like going to another country and biking. Like you really, it seems like when you get into something, you go all the way. Like when it comes to running, it's like it becomes like an obsession. Like, okay, this is what I do now. Like,
no,
have you always been that way, or is that just like?
You're just seeing two things. Running for me, like I'm a cardio junkie. I love running. The bike touring thing, it's really due to that friend, our mutual colleague. He was doing that. So he had done a trip. He went to like the South Island in New Zealand and went around, and he shared with me his routes and his photos. And it was just impressive to me. It was like, wow, you can really just go and do this. If you plan correctly, it's very safe and you can do these really amazing trips. I started looking at other people's blogs. People are doing this kind of stuff. And it really is a smart way to travel.
Is there like a community? Do you run into other people that are just like doing the same thing? You're just kind of like, oh, this is
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So like if you imagine, if you're traveling like you did, you were in like Bangkok and you're like you're
Mhm, mhm.
backpacking and stuff, and you find other backpackers and they might be from different countries, whatever, and you make friends and you
Yeah.
you kind of roll along together for a little bit. Cycling's the same way, but I think in some ways I like it more because you're kind of purpose driven.
Hmm.
You're not just there to like hang out and drink beers. I mean, that can happen too.
Hmm.
But on a bicycle, people have like certain benchmarks they're trying to get to. It's like, well, I got to get to here by this date. And um, yeah, if you're backpacking or if you're riding even a motorcycle, your eyes are just always kind of focused in front of you. Whereas on a bicycle, it's like the right pace for the
Yeah.
right amount of experience. I love that, like you get an opportunity to really be where you are, but you can still move forward.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. And I think there's something to that. I mean, in our everyday lives, we're sitting a lot. And
Yeah,
so to go on vacation and to sit on a train or sit on a bus is just you're not releasing that energy. You're not expending energy. There's something about doing something like what you're talking about, and the fatigue you feel is so satisfying. It's like, I'm so tired right now, and you sleep so well, and you've accomplished something. There's this,
yeah,
it's just like you set goals and you've met the goals. And then I think if you want to partake in some of, adult beverages, it's like, I earned this, man.
well,
Like,
yeah, or
you
anything
know
that you do. Like the last big bike trip I took before COVID hit was Spain. Yeah, it was Spain. So I started in Barcelona and then I went down the coast just following the Mediterranean to uh the idea was to go to Morocco, and then I ended up getting sidetracked and I went west instead once I got to the south. Anyway, that on that trip, so I arrived in. Oh, another nice thing when you're cycling, uh, it just you feel just more intimate with all the spaces you're in. So like I'm in
mhm.
Barcelona, I'm in the airport. When I'm leaving the airport, I could take a taxi, but I've got my bicycle and I've got my bags and everything. It's all right there. So in the airport, I'm still jet lagged, but whatever. It's like
You
I
just
know
started
I know where I'm
biking.
gonna go. Yeah,
Yeah.
just put everything together, just bike out of the airport, I'm gone. It's such a cool feeling, like you're not beholden to a system. You don't have to like negotiate a taxi cab and all this kind of crap,
That
you
might
know?
work in Madrid. I'm trying to think, if I left the what was the Don Muang airport in Thailand on a bicycle, I probably would have gotten about a mile before I
Squish.
became a grease spot. They'd be taking like a shovel to
Yeah.
scrape me off the pavement.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Um,
recommend it everywhere. Like if you're gonna do this coming out of like O'Hare, I don't know if that's possible.
yeah, I just think it'd
Maybe
be,
take the train, take the blue line, get into the
yeah,
city.
yeah. Get a little distance from the airport, because usually it's kind of in the middle of nowhere anyway.
Yeah.
But that's fascinating. That is really, really interesting. I don't think I have the guts to do that. Um, but I highly commend that. Did you bike back to the airport? Did you just you
I didn't fly out of that airport. So I biked to the airport of my departure, which was Granada. I think somewhere near Granada. It was like a really small airstrip. I showed up before the airport was open. I had to
mm.
wait outside. I remember that I was like losing my butt off. It was before the sun was up. And then I took a flight from there to Madrid and then back.
Okay.
But even like, okay, so getting back to Korea, talking about doing something like that in Korea. So if you want to bike in Korea, you absolutely can arrive at Incheon Airport, massive airport. You can just bike away.
So they
You
have a
can,
trail. There's a bike trail that goes all the way out there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So that's kind of the focus of this podcast is
yeah.
talking about the trails here. So I encourage anyone, if you're curious about what the hell I'm talking about, if you live here or not, or if you're planning to come here, if you have the Naver map app, so it's what we use here in Korea because Google Maps just isn't as good as Naver when you're in Korea for most details. Um,
Oh, I should say Kakao Map is pretty good too, right?
oh yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally,
They
yeah.
got, actually, Kakao has its own app. It's called Kakao Navi, Navi, or Nabi as they pronounce it here. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I use. But it's the same thing as Neighbor,
Yeah.
essentially.
I'm I don't use the cacao ones. That's why I jumped up on Neighbor. But yeah, they're both awesome. I do. A lot of my friends are using the cacao map. I think my girlfriend uses the cacao one predominantly. But and it probably has the same feature. I'm sure it does. But you can turn on. There's a little button for jajango for bicycle, and when you click it, it'll highlight all the bike trails, and it's color coded, and it shows you. Yeah, it shows you which trails are isolated from traffic. So truly isolated. It's a path. It's paved. Like 99% of it is really well kept, and there's no chance of getting hit by a car. Like they're not in traffic. It's its own road. And then it'll show you where you actually you're with traffic. Often it'll be like on the pavement, but there's a little like curb, like a parking curb about that height.
Yeah.
So you're on the inside of that.
Okay.
And then
so a car would have to jump the curb to actually hit you, make contact with you. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And what's probably even better is that using that versus using something like Google is that there's plenty of roads you could take. Like if you want to chart a trip across Korea and you want to start like in Seoul and go all the way to Busan. So you want to go the whole length of South Korea, which is a very popular bike route. If you wanted to do this and you're going to use something like Google Maps, it'd probably put you on the bike trail, to be honest. But let's just make a hypothetical. Let's say it does. It would route you on anything that's bikeable. And there's plenty of roads here that are bikeable. They're not freeways, they're not highways. You could bike on them, but they're not the bike trail. So you might actually get a more efficient route by distance. So sometimes I do look there and kind of combo plans and things like that. But what's nice about the bike routes is that you're all but guaranteed that it's going to be really safe. And then in addition to just the safety with traffic, the bike routes here by design have a lot of facilities. So like you've got like clean bathrooms. I mean, most of them are really nice. Some have aircon.
Right.
Yeah, I was in the middle of somewhere like north of Daegu, in the middle of nowhere, and there's a little like outhouse. I'm like, okay, and I open it up. It's like summertime. It's like August. It's got aircon. They're playing classical music. Like actually, I'm like, I go back out. I'm like, what's going on here? So it's really well kept, and there's a lot of services. People have, there are little like coffee shops. They're bike maintenance, little stands. I take really minimal tools with me because you just don't have to worry about stuff, and you can go the whole country.
Yeah. I went to a public restroom in Santa Monica Pier in Los Angeles, and
good times.
I walked in and I looked left, and there was I think every door had been smashed in, and there was a homeless guy. This is California. I think he had maybe 7 or 8 layers of clothes on. I'm not sure, like a shirt over a shirt over a shirt, and he was the beard. And I just turned around. I was like, I could hold it till I get home. I think I'll be all right. If not,
a lot of privacy in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a different world here, because it's like the people that are. I don't want to get in like a bash America and love Korea, but there is something amazing about how those facilities are like everybody just kind of respects it because they know like, if I destroy this, I can't use it,
Maybe that's why. I don't know why that is. That was definitely something that struck me when I came from Chicago to Korea, was a lot of the public facilities. Again, this is not about the bike routes, but the same point, like restrooms in the bike route or your rest stations, stuff like that. How the garbage bins, everything's really nice and tidy. When I came from Chicago, like subway system, it looks like Batcave, right? Like, Batman. And I came to when I came to Korea, I came to Busan, and I remember, I don't know what station I was in, but they had on the ground of the trains. At first, the train station's like well lit and clean. It's like you're going through kind of like a shopping mall is kind of what it felt like to me. I remember that was my impression. I was like, wow, it doesn't smell in here. And they had like a little wall, like a little koi pond, basically, like a little, not koi, but little fish, like goldfish.
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, the wall for the for the fish area, it wasn't so high that you could just like step into it. If you had to like kind of watch out for it. I forget what station that was. It was near where I lived when I was in Busan. But I remember looking at that, and it was like one of my first impressions of Korea and Busan, coming straight from Chicago. And I was like, man, if this was like in Chicago, people would be eating those fish. Like there'd be something going on here, you know?
Right, yeah. There'd be like we got a floater, we got another floater,
yeah,
you know, right. Like a body.
Like
yeah,
that would just be
down.
Sashimi. Yeah. So anyway, back to the biking thing. So so the accessibility here just blew me away. You don't need to be in any real physical shape to give it a go. You can, most of the major bike routes, so there's some famous long routes. So there's like, well, this is more than needs to be in the podcast. The point is there's some dominant big routes that you would use if you want to take like a country ride. You want to go from like Seoul to Busan, or like Seoul to Daegu, or just from Seoul to Chuncheon. That's a really cool route to describe. So on these routes, you're kind of just chasing public transit. You're chasing trains.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do they kind of run parallel with like the Mugunghwa train, or like the? Okay, that's what I was.
You'll come off it a little bit, but like if you take the southerly route, like straight from here going south towards Daegu, you'll be with the trains for up to like Chungju, I think. And when you start to deviate from it, every city that you get to, there's express buses. And you can take your bike and throw it underneath an express bus. They have a little carrier area. And I mean, the country is so small, in the efficiency of transit is so big, so well done, so well. You could go straight out for 5 days doing 100 kilometers a day. So you're 500 kilometers away, and then you can throw your bike on a train and you're back to Seoul in what, 3 hours max?
Right. For like, it'll cost you less than $30.
Yeah. And that's on the expensive end of things. Like if you take the buses and stuff, it's maybe less than $15.
Right.
So one of my favorite routes, I highly recommend to absolutely everybody and anybody, even if you don't like bikes, because you don't have to use a bike to get there, is to go from Seoul to Chuncheon. So Chuncheon is northeast of the city. Have you been there?
I've been there a few times. Chuncheon is, for our listeners out there, the Dak Galbi, Dak Galbi, capital of the world. Dak Galbi. What is Dak Galbi? It's like a spicy stir-fried chicken.
Yeah, chicken thighs, boneless chicken thighs that are cooked up with a bunch of
like tteokbokki. I guess it has some the rice cake, and
there's duck in it. There's usually goguma, sweet potato.
Yep. Onions, I think, are part of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, tons of onion.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's very delicious.
Great stuff. Yeah. So Chuncheon is the Dak Galbi capital. If you go there, you won't have a choice. You're gonna end up eating it because there's so many.
It's now whether it's the best, I don't know if I can tell the difference. All these cities in Korea have signature dishes.
We can talk about that another one.
That's a different podcast. It's a different podcast. So Chuncheon Chuncheon is if you go east towards am I right? Sorry, west. I'm thinking the wrong way.
East.
Is it east? East.
We can't go west.
Sorry, what am I talking about? West is Incheon. Sorry. East is towards the east coast, which is like Gangneung and Gangwon-do area. The mountains.
It's well before that. So
right, but it's well before that. Yeah.
So you're going east, but you're going on a northeast bias. So you're going up towards the DMZ. So for anybody interested in history here, you're going in the direction of the Punch Bowl, which is either a caldera or a crater. And there's a little village in it, but it's the scene of one of the famous scenes for the Korean War. So you're coming up just before that. that's another like day ride if you're looking at a map.
And if you
it's
just
close.
keep going, if you were to keep going, you would end up in, if you're going northeast, probably there's a Soraksan National Park is
Yeah,
quite famous, right? So that's a very
yeah,
popular destination for a lot of people to hike up
yeah.
Soraksan Mountain, and a lot of field trips. Kids will go on field trips to Soraksan, and
There's a lot of great
it's a
like
really
kind of,
beautiful area.
yeah, for camping. The trees are nice.
Yeah,
That I like that area, but if you're planning to bike there from Seoul, heads up. I did
it's
it.
uphill
I've done it twice.
the whole way.
It's once you get to Chuncheon, you got some elevation to knock out. It's not the same. So okay,
Yeah.
these bike trails, the ones you're going to find if you're on like Neighbor Map or Kakao, the bike trails that are on the map, those ones that are highlighted, they're going to be mostly with rivers. So if you look at the geography of Korea, it's a lumpy peninsula, right? It's got all these like kind of short mountains. That's the landscape. And everything that's built up here is in the valleys of that. So that's where all like the cities are. The bike trails generally follow these rivers, which is pretty great unless you're like into really exciting biking, you really like crushing it and going up hills. There really isn't much. So it's really kind of lazy biking. Again, it's pretty easy. So from like here to Chuncheon, it's just flat as a board. There's nothing.
That's
nothing.
fantastic. That's what I want. Yeah.
But
I
once you
don't
get
need
there-
I don't, especially like the worst would be like a small gradient where you're just like it's just hitting your like, the hamstrings the whole way. You're just,
Yeah.
they're just burning on fire. It's like,
Yeah,
I don't
so
want
if-
Tour de France stuff. I want to,
if you're really lazy, what you can do is because Seoul is closer to sea level,
yeah.
right? Because
So just
like,
take the KTX down and then just come
yeah,
back
you
on
take the train out with your bike. You get out of your bike, and you've got like this like 0.5% on average down.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Like
Yeah.
it's like the Eagles are just behind you. Just give you a little push.
Wind in your back. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
I'm
hilarious.
not ashamed to say I've done it.
Oh,
But
the only way I'd do it.
the bike route I'm recommending isn't just to Chuncheon. Chuncheon as a city, it's fine. There's probably some touristy stuff to do there. But what I really like to go as a destination is just beyond it. So Chuncheon has a river that kind of wraps around it. And the main road bisects it. It just cuts right through it. I would pretty much every time I go there, I skip the city. I go straight through it another 25 kilometers after Chuncheon. So you're on the far side of it. So to put it in perspective, from here where I am, center of Seoul, to where I'm talking about is 145, 150 kilometers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good jaunt. You could pull it in one day. I've only ever done it once in one day, and it's doable if you get up early. If you want
for our Americans, what is that? 75 miles or something like that, or 80?
More
More than that. Okay.
160, like 85. I don't know. My conversion's not good.
Okay.
Like kilometer now. It's weird.
I know.
When that happened,
I can't do the conversion.
I think it happened because of biking. Biking is what like made me start thinking in distances.
Kilometers.
Yeah. And then I just all my hardware for biking is kilometers. So that's just all I think. But yeah, I mean, you can, if anybody's listening, go look it up. I don't know.
150 sounds more impressive than 85. So
that's true. I mean, that's why I'm dropping it that way.
There you go. Yeah, dropping in kilos.
So you can rock it in a day, but it's a full day, and then you're gonna get there, and it's gonna be stuck eating at 7-Eleven because everybody's closed for dinner. So you can lay over. Again, it's so easy to find places to crash. There's always camping areas where if I keep a little bedroll with me, and you don't even have to bring a tent. A lot of the camping areas, they'll you can rent a tent.
I know it's all glamping now, right? Isn't that the new thing?
Yeah, and they have facilities for showers and like potable hot water. That's awesome. I originally, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I would just plan my route. I would look at it doesn't even need to be a big city, little villages, there's always going to be minimum 3 easy options. You're going to have a motel, which a lot of people call love motels here because sometimes they have
Right.
like sexy themes.
But you're not renting it by the hour. You're going by.
I pay
you're
for
like,
the
I'll
night.
take the whole night. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did a lot of those initially. It probably still is my default, is going to the love motels, because you're going to pay in these little villages maximum maybe $40 for the night. Now, if you're going to pay for the camping spot, that might be 15, but then you got to like think about the facility and everything. Whereas with the motel, you're getting a soft bed, you got a hot shower. I always do my laundry by hand, the night before. So I can always rinse out my stuff. I can hang it up there. I got a key I can lock. The motels always come with a razor, which I love. So I don't bring a razor. It comes with a toothbrush, toothpaste, soap. It's everything. Plus you've got like a mini fridge, you've got TV, you've got Wi-Fi, and it's kind of like, just at that point, you're like, why would I not take this advantage versus, it's just like $15 more and I can just do this. So that's definitely like kind of my go-to. Camping is just more romantic and fun. I enjoy being outside. So that often I would bring the bedroll because I'm looking for a good spot. But you can also free camp. So I guess that's in that category too. I have one of our coworkers, he does that. I think that's the only way he crashes on his bike trips here. He always free camps.
Oh, wow. So he just he just pulls up a nice little green patch of grass. It's like, this is where okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I saw the movie Easy Rider. Do you remember when Jack Nicholson gets his head bashed in by the, hillbilly? Not that there are hillbillies here, but it's just, I don't know. I can't, I need the door. Lock the door. I feel safe. No,
Yeah, that's the thing. I like my bike. And another nice thing about the motels, if you're on your bicycle, they always, without fail, they will have a place to put your bike that is locked. It'll be a garage. It'll be someplace that's secure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really nice. I travel in Korea a lot with, there it is behind me.
The fold bike. Folding
yes,
bike.
listeners that don't have a video, I'm pointing to a Brompton, which is a famous type of folding bike. I actually, they're not the most comfortable bikes for major touring, but the convenience of being able to fold it up is so nice, especially in Korea. Because
so you'll ride that 125 kilometers in
oh yeah, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
That's that one right there. This one I'm pointing to.
Yeah.
That bike is the bike that I took through Spain, actually. And again, I'm not recommending this to people as a touring bike. I don't think it's the greatest idea. They're not terribly comfortable for that. And I wouldn't do it again like I did in Spain. But what's nice about having a compact folding bike that you can carry in one hand, like a suitcase, in Korea at least, you don't need to worry about which train car to put it on. Taxis, it fits on my lap. I can sit in a taxi and pull it onto my lap.
It's like a briefcase almost.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So if you ever are out biking and you just want to like quit, you can just fold the bike up and come home.
I'm done.
Yeah. Also for cleaning, which maybe this isn't the nicest thing, but I always try to be very clean about it when I do it. But every motel I've ever been to in Korea with a folding bike, they let me take it into the room. They never insist on leaving it outside. They recognize that it's valuable because these are kind of expensive and they're popular in Korea. They know what this type of bike is. It's a British maker, but they're really famous here. So they know what it is. So they're like, yeah, take it in. So when I take it in, it's so small, I can put it in the shower. And then I use one of those complimentary toothbrushes because you always get two. And I use that to clean the bike.
Oh, okay. I see.
Pro tip. Yeah, but I'm always very respectful of the place because I would never leave a bunch of grease and crap in the shower. But so be careful when you take that advice. Be careful. Be nice.
I have so many jokes that I want to make right now, but I'm not going to make any of them. So, yeah.
So I shower with my bike sometimes. That's a fact. So that's the second way to crash when you're on the road here, and the last one last one's kind of a combo. You have some really cool like budget options. that you and I think we'll talk about when Kevin's back with us and we're talking about just travel in Korea, which is minbak, which is basically just a big room where you sleep on the floor. Usually they'll make a little breakfast for you in the morning. It's
and you sleep on a yo, basically. A yo is like a padded, like a kind of floor mattress, right? Is that the?
I've been in ones that have like nothing. They give you a blanket, but
Oh,
yeah,
really? Just wow. Okay.
There's like there's a pile of blankets in a closet with a pillow. If you're
I reckon
lucky.
if you're tired enough, that's a little sciatica is not gonna drive you crazy.
I used to do it to save a buck. It depends on the minbak you find. Many of them are designed. The rooms are usually big enough that you can have 4 or 5 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, then the price of the minbak is up. It's still cheap, but if I'm not splitting it with somebody, it's just not worth it. Just go get a motel like this.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right. So it's the cost effectiveness. I have another friend who does a lot of biking here. He does a lot of jjimjilbang, which is like Korean sauna, but you can sleep in that.
That's like a hack almost. That's like a hacker's tip. Tell people about that, because I think that would be that could be good for those of you who, if you're a Hagwon teacher and maybe you work at in Jola or something and you want to go to Seoul for the weekend, but you want to just really like I want a locker for my stuff, but you can just crash on essentially in the jjimjilbang on the floor. They give you like a t-shirt and shorts, and there's little mats, and and it's kind of humid because it's like a sauna situation, and you got to deal with like maybe some snoring people or whatever. But
if you're on a bicycle and you're touring, you're going to be a little extra tired. That might help you fall asleep. But for me, when I've tried to crash in jjimjilbangs, because you're sleeping, let me describe it first. People don't know because it's fun. Okay. So jjimjilbang is something that I did not anticipate when I came here. I've heard about like there's saunas, and I expected it to be like a sauna that I've experienced at like a nice hotel. It's not. It's its own thing. It's its own thing. Usually they're quite big. At least the ones I've been to, they're quite sizable. It has any number of different facilities, depends on which one you go to, but you will find, of course, saunas. So there's like steam rooms. They also have chill rooms, which I really like. Many of them, you can go in, it's like a refrigerator. You can rotate between the two.
Yep.
Of course, they have pools you can dip in with jets. There's some different services, depends on which one you go to. Like you can get like not massage, but like they scrub you with the pads.
They put on these
one time, but I just turned red. It's like
the kind of cloth that you would clean like a pan that has like a lot of gunk on it, and you just scrape it off. Yeah, they do the same thing to your body, essentially. All the dead skin. They exfoliate you.
Exfoliate the hell out of you.
Like there's not a loose piece of skin on you after that.
Yeah, so it's
so if you have ever scraped yourself and you're like, oh, I want to do that to my whole body, partake in the oh man, it's always like an old person, and they're strong as hell, these people.
So you pay a few bucks for that. I think that was on top. I did that one time and I was like, yeah, it's enough. They have many of them will have a little vending machine where you can get anything you need. I was in one at a vending machine that had underwear in it. So if you need a pair of underwear, you put your money in, or your car. Get fresh undies. Of course, toothbrush, really popular also. They have boiled eggs.
Those like the like baked eggs, the brown ones.
Yeah, the baked eggs.
Yeah, those are fantastic. Yeah,
gotta have
protein, man.
Yeah. So but for bike touring, so you can see where this is already good for touring. It's a place you can go, and it's a sauna. You're gonna chill out. You're all sore from biking.
Yeah,
you can it's bliss. It's awesome.
Right.
But what's good for a place to crash is there's a common room. So the common room is usually going to be, the ones I've been to, they're I keep saying that because there's so many here.
They're co-ed, right? I mean, they're
right.
Yeah.
And I keep qualifying saying the ones I've been to, because there's so many, and I haven't been to a lot, right? So I don't know what the standard is, just the standard of what I've experienced. But yeah, the general sleeping area is usually co-ed, which means there's a ton of people. It's twice as many people as you just hung out with in the sauna. They give you PJs, so everybody's dressed the same,
Right.
and you can just lay down and crash. The floors are heated, which is really common in Korea. As many,
And that feels fantastic in the winter. Just finding a
Yeah.
warm spot on the floor.
Oh
Where
man,
that because they run hot water through the pipes, right? Essentially, it's a radiator underneath the floor, basically. And if you find
Yeah.
yourself a little hot spot, hold on to that. That's
yeah.
that's fantastic.
So
Feels
you
great.
you can. Oh, in the cost for this, you can find jjimjilbangs that are, I think,
I
still.
know they're like $5. Right?
Yeah, I think like 7, maybe
$7 now. Yeah.
Yeah, like at maybe 5, 7. I think the last time I stayed in one, it was around $7. I don't think you'll pay much more than 15 unless it's like a special jjimjilbang that's like,
Sure.
I don't know if they got like a little mini orchestra playing it or something. I don't know what they
But
do.
again, if you're coming up from Jola and you're like, I want to party in Seoul for the weekend, but I don't want to, I don't want to blow all my money on hotels. Jjimjilbang, man, it's a hack. Like you show up and you just throw on their PJs, take a shower, relax, and you head out for the night.
There's some
great,
a couple other nice little bonuses. So obviously the price, it's probably the cheapest price for a place to stay next to free camping where you pay $0. So it'll be cheaper to go to a jjimjilbang than it is to rent a campsite on the bike trail.
And you can get a locker, right? Like they have a locker where you can stick your stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to take your bike, and they're not going to guarantee that. So you're going to tie your
right.
bike
If you're on a bike trip,
There's
you're going to have to lock it up somewhere. Yeah.
There's that. But there are some other things that are quite nice. Like if you're at the jjimjilbang, there's not a checkout. So it doesn't really matter what time you roll in. You don't have a process of check-in, check-out, this kind of stuff like you do in a hotel. So that's really convenient. I mean, I think you could just stay there as long as you want to live on tea, eggs, and bottled water. I don't know, like green tea. Like how long could you last?
I mean, you got to be like the thing about I'm not a jjimjilbang guy. I don't like saunas. I don't like the community hot tubs. I don't like the public nudity. It's just like it's not my It's just it's not my cup of tea. But I've been to a few, just to have the experience. But if I were on a bike trip, I think especially if I were going solo, I think I might consider the jjimjilbang. That might be just for mitigating the cost of the trip. I mean, it's such a good deal. But the whole hotel does sound better. It does sound more comfortable. So
yeah, I mean, with the motels, you're going to get soft bed, soft pillow, clean everything, and privacy, security. So that's usually by default there. But I'll rotate in the jjimjilbang not just to save a buck, but because there's many times I'll roll into a little town, I'll check into my hotel or motel, and then I go to a jjimjilbang to use the sauna.
Oh yeah, sure.
I just want to have like the power jets and everything. And
right. So, especially if you're biking, it does have that. There must be some it must be very great for like loosening up the muscles and just like getting you ready for the next day of biking. I mean, so
there's plenty of places that are just easy to find anywhere on the bike trail. You can't be more than like 20K from like a nice cup of coffee, a slice of pizza, and a place to sleep. It just, even when you're out in the boonies, I was just with my buddy on a bike trip. We went, which way were we going? I think it was towards Chuncheon. We went to Gapyeong. So Gapyeong's on the way to Chuncheon. So we broke off and went north to a little pension up in the woods. And there was this like a brick oven pizza cafe.
Oh,
like
wow.
In the middle, it's just in the middle of a field. This
Yeah.
guy just doing this. And it's he makes his own dough and everything. It was excellent.
Damn.
And it's just funny. You could have like wine and pizza, and then get back on your bicycle in the middle of a forest.
Now,
It's
are these vendors like, are they taking advantage of just like multiple groups of bikers that are coming through? So
yeah, so
they've kind of
here's
found this path, and they're like, oh, this is my spot where I sell
absolutely,
kimbap and I sell drinks
absolutely,
and stuff like that.
yeah.
It's all
So
pretty
what
cheap, or what? Do they kind of
it's normal.
they're not like, they're not skimming or, you know, overcharging you or anything like that? It's
No, it's totally reasonable.
mhm.
The a joint like that joint in particular, if you look at it, you can kind of understand where it's coming from. It's some guys like kind of farm property, and so you probably own the land on that side of the bike trail. You have the bike trail traffic. There's not any place really to park a car or anything. You don't really go there other than bikes. So
So
when it's the
yeah.
weekend, he's got a captive audience in that section and probably just cranks a lot of pizzas, I would
Well,
think.
this guy was probably like, I'm not doing kimbap again, because God knows you could get
Yeah.
kimbap. If our listeners don't know what a kimbap roll is, like, it's kind of like the Korean sandwich is the way I've always thought of it. It's like
Yeah.
rice rolled up in gim, which is seaweed, and then it's got some vegetables and a little meat in there. And you'll eat, if you come to Korea, you'll eat a lot of kimbap in the beginning, and then you might
Yeah, it's
not
gonna
touch it for a
happen.
while. Yeah,
It's gonna happen.
I got it out of my system pretty quickly. I think I don't
Yeah.
need kimbap too often.
If you're on a bicycle, kimbap will be something you'll end up eating a lot of, and a lot of baked eggs. I go through a lot of
Right.
those. Other convenience stores have them. They travel a lot of baked sweet potatoes. They
Oh
travel.
yeah.
Yeah, and on the bike trail you'll find people doing that. They'll have a stand set up and they'll be selling like roasted corn. You just
Mhm,
grab it as
mhm.
a bike.
Yeah.
So oh, I wanted to mention the route. I didn't finish the route because this is a real recommendation. I've given this so many times, but uh, man, I wonder if we even said it in this podcast before. But on the other side of Chuncheon, there's this place is a big hydroelectric dam called Soyong Dam. And at the base of this dam, there's just a few cheap places to stay. And so if you break the trip into 2 days, if you want to be lazy, crash one day somewhere, east of Gapyeong, like just cut the trip in half. You'll find a place to crash. And then the next day, get up and you can get to that kind of base camp, the base of the dam, well before dinner time.
Mhm.
You can have a nice dinner, probably duck galbi or whatever you want,
Right.
and crash in the morning, get up, early, have your breakfast. And there's little shuttle buses that'll take you up to the top of the dam. And at the top of the dam, there is like a man-made lake, as there would be above a dam. And it's got a pretty nice, they just put a ton of money into it recently. Oh, that's where we talked. I think we talked about this during the real estate episode. I think I mentioned it because there's a lot of infrastructure development, or what do you want to call it, in that area.
Yeah.
You can take the ferry boat across that lake, and on the far side, there's a place where you can have like fresh trout. It's just they're farming trout there in the lake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really good fresh trout. And
Yeah.
then there's a really easy like 1-2 kilometer hike to a temple back there. It's gorgeous. There's another more intensive hike if you want to go beyond that takes you up so you can really see back down towards the dam. So that one I think I mentioned that before in the podcast because it's one of my favorite places to go because you can take your bike there. You could get there in one day if you really wanted to. And the whole route is on the train line. So at any point
You'll never
where
get
you're
lost.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, at any point you're just like, screw this, I want to go home.
Yeah. Where's the
You could just,
next train station? Yeah.
yeah, you throw your bike on the train and you're
I'm
back in
out. Yeah.
hour and 30 minutes. You're back in the center of Seoul. So
That's
that's
got to
just
be weird, man. Like to do that. I think you've mentioned that before, that you took this long trip all the way out there, and then you hopped on the train. You're like, you were in your bed at like 9:30 that night. You're like, how did I get here? Like, this is I like that. The worst part about, I think, living in the Midwest where I'm from is everything's so damn far away. We visit relatives in South Dakota. It's great when you get there and meet and see them, but then knowing that you've got that 5-hour drive, back to the Twin Cities, you know, or whatever, or going to Chicago 7 hours away from the Twin Cities. You know, I'm from the St. Paul and Minneapolis area, and so in Korea, there's none of that nonsense. Like, even if you take the slow train, you're still gonna, you know, you could probably fall asleep for a couple hours, and when you wake up, you're so close to your destination, it's ridiculous. So that is also a wonderful thing.
And again, we'll talk about it when all three of us are together, when Kevin's back on the podcast, we're talking about travel, because in addition to doing cycling, it overlaps with travel, because if you wanted to like take that trip, you don't have to have a bicycle. You could just take the train. You're out there in like 2 hours, boom, you're there. So you don't have to do the bicycle thing. And I know I'm almost positive I recommended that route before. So if anybody's actually that intensely listening to our podcast, don't consider this as like the only cool route to bike. There's so many awesome bike routes that you can do. That's just the easiest one I know of around here. But
so did you invest in like a Daiso, one of those like a clip where you can stick your phone so that you can see the navigation, like you can kind of follow? Or do you just like look at the map and then kind of put your phone away and then go? Or is it?
I don't have a heads up display. I have a little mini bike computer, just like an LED. What do you call that? LCD, LED. That tells me my speed and records my distance. Odometer.
Oh, okay, okay.
Magnet that goes around your wheel. One thing that's nice here compared to maybe other places, because the bike trails are they're highlighted so well, like physically, not like on a map, but like in reality, you really just can't get lost.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking, like, for the uninitiated that might be thinking about this, but they're a little bit scared. I mean, would you recommend like a female go by herself, like alone? Would that be?
Yes, it's
okay.
Fine. I mean, I can't say it as not being a female. I don't know what that would feel like, whatever, but I would think I see a lot of solo female bikers. It's I mean, you know, Korea in general is just very secure in many ways. The bike trail, well, just like anybody, I wouldn't recommend, although I do it, but I wouldn't recommend biking at night anywhere when you're out like in the boonies. But the daytime trail, yeah, it's populated, not obnoxious.
And just using like common sense is okay. It's not, there's not, you know, I mean, I can't think of any stories of any that I've read in the newspaper of any like attacks on, you know what I mean? It just seems like it's such a frequented recreational path that there's just enough traffic that you're going to be around some people that are also doing the same thing. It's not such an isolated kind of trek through these, you know, the boonies. You're kind of parallel to some other, like, you know, either a train or a road or something where there's some traffic and people.
Yeah, Korea's small. It's you're always pretty close to something. I mean, I wouldn't recommend, if you feel like you're worried about being vulnerable, like, yeah, just don't do free camping in the most secluded place you can find. Like, just go to Chuncheon, go to a motel, you know. But as far as like throughout the day biking, yeah, it's not busy. It's not like it's like a ton of like bike traffic. It's not, because that would suck.
And you have self-service and you're also probably good practices. Let somebody know that you're going on this trip, you know, just give somebody a heads up, like, I'm heading this way at this time.
I do that absolutely every time I go.
That's just common sense. Yeah.
And I do check-ins. I always have somebody that I'm checking in with when I'm out anywhere in the world biking, and that's just common sense. And with the way that we have cell phones now, there's no excuse not to be at least that responsible with your health.
And you got service everywhere, like every inch, I would say, of the way. You probably have service if you need it. So
GPS here is really great. So again, there's just so many easy, fun rides. If you're not into doing like the overnight thing, Paju's a really cool little village that's northwest of here. It has like a little art gallery village. So it's, have you been there? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I've been there, but I
No.
cannot remember. It might have been a long, long time ago.
Like the size of a little mini suburb within the city, not that big, little neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's just all coffee shops that double as art galleries. And you can just, it's kind of like getting a $7 coffee, but you're allowed to hang out there and read a book all afternoon.
Mhm,
So I've
mhm.
done that where I just ride my bike out there from here to there. I think maybe 55 kilometers. So it's a pretty good jaunt,
Wow.
but you're sitting down all day. So if I get there before noon, you can sit down, you're having lunch, having coffee, you're just vegging out, you're checking out some art, you're walking around the village. By the time I bike out, it's like, coming close to dinner time, you're pretty well reset. And again, if you don't want to bike, you can just take the bus.
Take the bus. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Like,
this is like, I mean, if I didn't I've got a family, and I got kids, and so it's a little bit trickier for me to partake in these kinds of things. But man, if you're looking to like get in shape or whatever, but you don't want to join a gym, I mean, this is like just an investment in a bike is with all these trail options that you're talking about, and just how much of Korea you're going to see. I really regret it, because for me, like traveling was more, my destination was like where, which bar are we going to end up in, it wasn't yeah, if I could go back in time and talk to younger Jack, and be kind of slap some sense into him and say, dude, you're missing out on all these amazing opportunities to do
well,
this really cool stuff.
It's still there. It's still there.
It's maybe, yeah. You might see, I might be that like really fit 55-year-old guy, it's like got the all the gear on and everything. So I haven't given up yet. I'm still here, but yeah, it really sounds so enticing to me. Like, it's just such an interesting and I didn't know it existed, and it's just getting better. They're just the infrastructure is just being it's more robust than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. There a lot of people are doing this, and you probably see people rollerblading, and you'll see people doing other things too, I imagine. Some of those like sit down bikes, those
I love those guys. Yeah, like the recliner.
Yeah, they're reclined back, and they're just, they're still moving their legs, but they're they
always have like the coolest like bike helmets and lights and stuff. Those guys are cool. Like they're out there for fun.
You're right.
And you see like you'll see a lot of little biker gangs and stuff. My first big trip ever took, I actually got picked up by a group of ajumma being like older Korean women.
Mature Korean women. Yeah.
Mature Korean. Yeah. So like I would say the median age there was like 60. And it was like when my Korean skill was even, worse then. But it was enough that I could, it's pretty easy to impress people when you speak Korean, because they just don't expect it here.
Sure.
So I had done my usual, like, brief introduction, asked a few questions I know how to ask, and had a pleasant exchange with these nice older women, and they would not leave me. And they're like, yeah, you're part of the group. So I had to bike with them like for the rest of the day. And I loved it.
Adopted into basically a bicycle gang of ajumma, right?
Yeah.
Did they give you like a leather jacket? Did they give you your stripes and your
dude, I'll show you a picture of this, because I was in all the pictures, and then we shared photos. We exchanged email addresses and shared our photos and stuff. This group, they all had amazing bikes, like minimum like $5,000, just like top of the line, nice stuff. And they all had matching jackets. So they were a gang,
They were a gang, man. Yeah. They didn't give you like an ass whooping at the end, initiating you into the gang. Isn't that
I was reprimanded by one of them. I was reprimanded because of how bad my bicycle was.
Oh,
It was when I had that crappy.
you didn't have like
bike.
a $5,000 titanium frame,
No, she gave me an earful. She's like, why are you using this?
How
Like,
can you do
that's
that?
dangerous.
Yeah,
You can't be out here on that. You know?
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, mostly like all the encounters I've had biking, man, years been biking here and all positive. I mean, the worst case scenario, I think the worst I ever had was there was a older gentleman who kind of picked me up in the same way. We were biking and yeah, it was like I had to roll with him for 2 hours and he just wanted to talk and I was tired. It was like the end of a really harder segment. I wasn't into struggling with Korean at this point. I just want to put my like headphones back on, like that's the type of nuisance.
But you didn't want to be rude, but it's like, yeah, sometimes it's a weird thing. Like my usual advice is like path of least resistance. Surrender to the groove and open yourself up, and you might end up like you had a great experience with these like 60. When other time in your life are you going to have a fun with a bunch of 60-year-old women?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's
not. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like open yourself up. Like I was uncomfortable and like hoping for it to end for the first like half hour. It's like, oh no, come on, ladies, like just do your let the foreigner go. But then after like a half hour, I'm like, this is my crew. Like I am in this crew.
I'm in. Yeah.
Like who wants a kimbap? Kimbap's on me over here.
I get to see them like cutting apple slices for you right now. They must have taken care of you. Like, yeah. That is the spirit of Korea that I'm familiar with. It is a very generous, and they really want you to like it. And so if you want to have those kinds of more organic experiences, you're not going to find those in Itaewon. You're not going to find it at the bottom of a pint of cask beer. You're not going to find it in Hongdae. You're going to have fun in those places. But if you want to, I think you got to find a balance of those kinds of experiences. Like, I don't want to call it necessarily a cultural experience, but it's just something like it's a little off the beaten track, a little esoteric, a little different, and so rewarding, I think,
Yeah. If you go anywhere traveling, and if you're backpacking and you just drop into like Kopangan and you're gonna like sit on the beach and go to a full moon party.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you're just gonna like drink buckets of alcohol and whatever. You're gonna hang out with mostly foreigners if you do that. Right. You're gonna be treated as a dollar sign by all the locals because that's what you are there. But if you put a little effort into trying to actually have like a more genuine experience, and I don't mean like you have to, like that's fine. If that's the kind of experience you want to have, you just want to go and relax and have a vacation, that's cool. But like the same thing in Korea, like if you're just going to hang out in Seoul's awesome. I love this city. This is my city now, and I love it. Some of the best restaurants and cafes and bars in the world, I think, are here. I love this place. But if you want to have those experiences where you're actually connecting with some people that'll actually struggle with you with your crap Korean, which is really fun, or with their crap English, and actually try to have a meaningful experience with someone who's interested in sharing with you in the way that you want to share with them, you got to get out of the city. What I do like about that here versus other countries I've traveled to, I know it's a stereotype, but it's a stereotype for a reason. Koreans are just welcoming as a general rule. They are so welcoming, just like what you just said.
They really want you to like Korea. They really want you to like it.
Yeah. And they waste no effort telling you about how much they love where you're from. They are interested. I mean, I'm talking like on average. Again, these are stereotypes, but it's like my average experience is this just like real aggressive enthusiasm, and they really want to take care of you. And I find that more reassuring biking here than like going through Cambodia or Laos or anywhere else or any other country. Cycling where I've got to kind of watch my back. Here I feel like, if I really got into a pickle, I really had a problem, like my bicycle broke and I've just got to walk it. I had that happen actually in Laos. I had my bike break down pretty bad. I was on another folding bike, not this one, similar one. And I was shit out of luck. and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and literally just, I'm waving my hand at cars, pushing my broken bike. And I finally got a truck that stopped. It took a couple hours before someone, and then when I get in the truck, I have to negotiate with them. I'm like, yeah, man, I'll give you some money. Just take me someplace where I can, put my head down here. I need respite. I'm burnt, sunburnt. I'm, dehydrated,
right, exhausted,
I need some help, bro. And it's like, yeah, well, how much? And I'm like, it's cool. I carry cash for this reason. But in Korea, that would just not be the case. You would not give cash to someone. If that, in that same situation, you wouldn't be allowed to. If you did, it'd be almost like insulting. It'd be like,
it wouldn't take it. They would not take it. Yeah. No, that's and that's and we're not trying to be like everything is rose-colored glasses, but I mean, this is my experience. I think this is your experience. And I mean, it's and also the fact that like they've really paid attention to like people that like to bike. They've really tried to create an infrastructure for that hobby. And so that's got to be that. It's just so nice to be able to do that on the weekend. I mean, it's not like, I bet in Laos you're going to hit spots where you're like, oh, I can't even get through here, or and it's more exciting if you're into that, like, experience. But I think for the uninitiated like me, I would love to just start out with like a Korean bike trip. And so, and a lot of people think like, oh, it's not gonna be fun to travel around Korea. Take a peek around. It's a very interesting place. There's a lot of beauty that you probably didn't expect. And just like that dam you're talking about, like, how many people know about that,
or how different the in-between places are. So when you're traveling any country, you're going to be kind of going from like spot to spot. It's like tourist spot to tourist spot, or big city to big city, or even if they're small areas, it's still a tourist spot. There's a lot of spaces in between where, it's reality. And sometimes it can be kind of, you got to be careful. And like some places, I was in Java, I was in some areas where I definitely did not feel safe because it was not safe.
Right.
But here, the in-between places, my experience, are incredibly safe, welcoming, and really different. The way people are living in the countryside here, it's like there's two Koreas. There's the countryside and there's the urban side. They're really, really different.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. If I had to like say for all the places that I've biked or even traveled, if you want to try doing a bike trip, I can't think of a place where it's easier or safer than here. And I one caveat there, I've never biked distance biking in Europe other than Spain, Mediterranean coast.
Yeah.
So I know that in there's some route one of our other coworkers did through Germany that he described like this. He's like, yeah, it's just a cakewalk. It's so easy. It's so chill.
Yeah, and I think that's probably kind of what they modeled it after, and I think, I mean, this is like a great place to, again, for those that don't have a lot of experience with it, this would be a great place to start that hobby. I mean, that's where you started this hobby, and you you biked before, but like this real long distance biking where you're taking bike trips that are overnight bike trips, hundreds of kilometers.
Yeah, you don't have to commit, which is what's the nice part. I guess that's why it's safe, convenient, and easy. You don't have to commit. You can go out, like I could leave right now. What is it, like almost midnight? I could leave right now and be like, okay, this is probably a bad time to go out. I'm kind of sleepy. It's midnight. Man, I could plot a trip that's 150 kilometers. But on that trip, I know that after 20 kilometers, there's a place for me to crash, get food, rest, everything I need. There's lights, on the trail. And then the next day, same thing. I just quit after 20 kilometers. You can just inch your way.
This is kind of an aside, but and this might be a good place to kind of wrap up. But I find that when Korea, when they make a decision to open some kind of venue and offer some kind of activity, they really make it convenient. Like they think of everything, you know what I mean? Like you don't even have to I'm just trying to think of like another, like you can go to a baseball game here and they have a convenience store right attached to the stadium where you can just go in and buy chips. It's not like when you go to a Minnesota Twins game and I pay $7 for a hot dog and $9 for a Coke, and you're like, I think 9 might be a little overpriced, like, am I crazy here? But it's just like, they don't do that here. They make it easy and convenient and enjoyable. And that is something that this is really maybe a little bit unrelated, but I really appreciate that about the country. I like that. It's just everything is kind of set up for you. They just kind of tee it up and then you get to enjoy it without having to invest in. Maybe I don't want to buy a $300 fishing pole, but I want to go fishing. Well, just show up and it's all there for you,
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like for any type of activity, there's a lot of the stuff like that. It's like, the convenience is expected. It's expected.
Yeah, it's
so,
expected.
Right. Is a good example. Like if you want to go fishing, if you're on your bike trip and it's all along rivers, so there's plenty of good fishing. If that's a thing you maybe like, or maybe something you want to try, you've never fished before, and you're like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I just had a little selfie of me fishing in Korea? Guess what? Just walk up to any place where there's fishing stuff and be like, yo, do you know where I could rent some fishing gear? And they're going to point to it, and you'll probably be out like $10 for the day.
Right. And it'll be very reasonable. And I think that's something I really, really appreciate it. And it's not, and they don't try to price gouge you,
It's flat.
It's So man, Ryan, that was is there anything else you wanted to add about the
obviously, like I'm talking on Blue Streak here, like I could just keep going. This is my bread and butter, but let's I'll put a sock in it now, and I'll try to feed more questions for like chapter 2, which should be just about travel in general, because Kevin's gonna have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, sure. And I've done a little bit, but I'm more interested in you guys because you have the real experience.
Well, still anecdotes from everybody, just to see like what it was like, different places, different times, and different ways to do it. But let's cut it there with the bicycle stuff. I think I've sold it as much as I can. Like
you've sold it. You sold me, man. I'm talking to my wife tomorrow. I'm buying a what's the most expensive titanium that I can order?
Make the whole outfit.
I'll get the alien head shaped. I'm not sure I really need that, but maybe just to protect
my shorts with the ass pads in them.
Yeah, that I did take a long bike ride once, and the palms of my hands got numb because I wasn't used to riding, and man, did my ass hurt. I remember getting to the campsite and I sat on a like a wooden bench. And that might be the best feeling I've ever had in my life, was just sitting on the flat bench, getting off the bicycle seat. I think my friend and I went from never biking to biking like 60 miles in a day or something. So it was it was a good 80, 90 kilometers. And that was, I'm not gonna lie, it was awful. Jump in. But anyway, man, thanks for sharing your insights there, because I think it's really such a cool thing, and it's not something you hear about every day. You know what I mean? It's just like and it's right there on a silver platter for anybody out there that lives here that wants to just partake. And I bet you could even rent a bike. I mean, if I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, so you don't even have to go out and buy the bike. You could rent.
Something. If you're coming from abroad and this is like, you're like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to do that, but I gotta like, it costs $100 to check your bike onto most flights, I think still. You're worried about like all that, or how do I get a bike when I'm on the ground? Like, you don't need to worry about it. You'll be able to rent a bike very easily. There's also just so many people in such a dense area in this country that I would actually recommend, if you have a special type of bike that you really want, just go buy it here when you get to Korea, and you can resell it. Very easy to flip stuff here because there's such a density of population. It's really competitive pricing for used stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's another option too, is just to buy it and flip it.
Flip it. There you go. Awesome. That gosh, you've got me really fired up now to ride a bike.
Well, thanks for feeding the questions and letting me gab.
No, man, it was we could, like I said, we could keep this going for another hour and a half, but you guys, our listeners out there, you know where to find us. We're the Soul Patch is on all the major platforms. We are, Stitcher, Spotify, are we on Pandora? I think so. Of course, we're on Apple Podcasts. So if you can give us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be hugely helpful to us. We've got a YouTube channel. And our YouTube channel, you just type in the Soul Patch Podcast, SEOUL, and you can watch Ryan and I talk together. But if you want to go to the one-stop shop, just hit up thesoulpatch.com. Again, SEOUL, thesoulpatch.com, and everything is right there for your downloading enjoyment. So there you go. And I guess I think maybe the three of us might be back together. We'll have the whole the whole patch. The patch will be full. I don't know what the right expression is.
Something there.
Something there. Yeah. But we'll see y'all next week. So thanks everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.
I'd like to pay a couple respects to the people that made me what I am today.
Nothing here.
Kiss all my love. Kiss all my love.
The quiet man.
Kiss all my love. Kiss all my love.
Dopamine. Jim.
Kiss all my love. Kiss all my love. Kiss all my love.
The brain.
Kiss all my love. Kiss all my love.
Hey, Bobby. Let the bass go.